Gracchi Brothers, Part 2, Tiberius Gracchus. If you have any questions, leave them in a comment below. So we're going to start off with Tiberius Sempronius Gracchus. Now, he is going to be a main member of this populares movement, one of the major politicians who is going to push for particularly land reform. That is part of this movement that we're setting up here. He was born in 163 and dies in 133 BCE. He had joined public life as an augur at the age of 10, so as a priest. Eventually, he will be elected to the office of quaestor in 137 BCE, and it's during his time as quaestor that he is going to notice that there are a large number of very large plantations being run by slaves, and that there is very much an absence of free peasants in these places. And while on campaign during his quaestorship, he saves a Roman army, but does so by negotiating a peace with the local peoples to save them. And so, having this not seen as a great military victory and kind of as a cop-out, the Senate basically betrays him by saying that that his accomplishments were not up to snuff, and so the PR historians of later eras basically see this as a turning point as why he turns against the Senate. And when he arrives back in Rome after his quaestorship, he will then eventually run for tribune of the plebs in 133. You might see some foreshadowing there. Now, what is his main focus? It's land reform. He proposes to enforce all the previous laws. Just like we had previously, all the way back to 375, there were the Lex Licinia Sexta, which was the law that regulated how much land each person could hold, and he's basically saying we need to enforce the pre-existing law. And so the idea would be that all the extra land that these wealthy individuals have been owning without permission would be confiscated and then redistributed out to 30 jugera allotments to Roman citizens, all these people who are urban poor. And basically taking this and basically allowing to alleviate the urban poverty problem, as well as to allow for people to make their own living so that they can raise enough money to become soldiers again. Initially, the idea was basically they will have to pay a small rent on this land, but it's really only a small amount that it's basically as a way to ease them in. Really, this reform is a very minor fix. It's not going to solve the whole problem, but it's the idea that it's like as wars continue, people are going to keep losing their farms. It's like this is an attempt to at least alleviate the initial issue. The thing is that this very minor reform comes up to great opposition because a lot of those wealthy individuals who are already owning that land and farming it feel like it is theirs, even though they are renting it from the government. And so the opposition to this is steadfast. And so this leads into these accusations of constitutional violations, where basically, as tribune of the plebs, he is able to assemble the people of Rome to be able to confirm laws. The normal process is that a law is proposed in the Senate deliberates, the Senate then approves the law, and then is passed on to the people for final approval and to be ratified into law. Because of this, Tiberius is like, well, the Senate is refusing to do this because they are all the Senate's made up of those wealthy individuals who would be hurt by their land being taken away and given to the poor. And so he basically decides to circumvent them. He's like, since the people have the ultimate authority, and I have the law already written, why do I need to even consult the Senate? And so he basically undermines proper procedure. And instead of bringing the law to the Senate, he brings it directly to the people. Now, the thing is that a former tribune, that of Gaius Flaminius, had done this about 100 years before that. So there were precedents set for this type of action. But this was seen by the senators as a huge violation of their position within the Roman state. And so they basically voice their opposition to this, and one of Tiberius's fellow tribunes, that of Marcus Octavius, decides that he's going to veto the calling of this law before the people in favor of the Senate. Tiberius is very much upset by this, and so he tries to basically negotiate with Octavius to rescind his veto. He refuses, so he basically calls to the people. He encourages the people of the Concilium Plebis to remove Octavius from office, and therefore removing his sacrosicity, that sacred protection on Octavius. Now, the thing is that he is basically going back to the idea of what is defined in the 12 tables, literally the 12th table. Whatever the people ordain shall be legally valid. Basically saying that if the people, it is the people who have the power to determine if someone holds office. And if they elect someone into office and then decide that person is not doing the job that they feel like they should, then they should be able to then make a new law saying that that person no longer is in that office and basically remove them from office. That is his kind of legal basis for this. The thing is that with that sacrosicity, it's the idea that that pleb, the tribune of the plebs, is protected by both religious and legal statutes, that if anybody tries to harm them, they can be put to death. They will be put to death on the spot. So by removing him from office, and therefore removing his sacrosicity, it is putting Octavius in a dangerous position where he could be harmed. And this is puts in this kind of legal gray area of, do they have the ability to do this? Is this actually something that can be done? And so Tiberius pushes for it. And the people as the people are voting to remove Octavius over and over again through all the different groups within the Concilium Publis, he continues to plead with him, please rescind your veto. And Octavius refuses again and again until the people finally get enough votes that they remove Octavius from office. And so, with that, he's removed. Tiberius has him carried away off the rostra, and Tiberius proposes the law for land reform. And the people pass it because it benefits them. The thing is that he realizes that, okay, I've gotten the law passed, but I'm not going to have enough time to actually implement it. So he starts to decide, maybe I should run for a second term. Now, the thing is that how political office usually works in Rome is that it's a stepping stone. You get one office so that you can then try to go for a better one the next year. So the idea of a tribune running for the tribuneship again seems counterintuitive. And the fact is that nobody had done that in over 200 years. And so because it had such a long precedent, such a far-off precedent, a lot of people were like, that's not supposed to be something that you do. That's violating the norms. And so they come in opposition to the idea that he's going to do this. So while they're kind of debating, it's like, can you even run again? That's when he goes ahead and starts setting up things for this law that he's passed. And this leads to the implementation of the land reform. The thing is that they know that they need to have people in place to actually implement this law. And so the Concilium Publis establishes a 3-man commission to actually distribute the land to the plebs. This is where we get into a situation where the people that are chosen seem to be a little iffy as how exactly they got into their jobs. Tiberius himself is, of course, chosen, his brother Gaius, and his father-in-law Appius Claudius Pulcher. So it seems very much a situation where they're keeping it within the family. Now, it would make sense. It's like this is the guy who wants to get it done. We trust him, so we're going to trust his family members. It's like, but there's a bit of conflict of interest in there, definitely. So the thing is that okay, the laws are being passed. They're going to seize this land and redistribute it. But the thing is that if you just give a random person land, they're not going to be able to do much with it. They're going to need to have, farming equipment. They're going to have a horse, a plow, all those types of things, to add seed, to actually, make the land profitable and actually be a use to them. And so that's going to need money. And the Senate, as the holder of the purse strings, says, nope, we're not going to fund you. Great. It's like, yeah, you got it passed, but we're not going to let you actually do it. But Tiberius has a bit of luck, because at the same time when this is happening, King Attalus III of Pergamum dies. And he has no heirs. So he actually wills his entire kingdom, the entire kingdom of Pergamum, to the people of Rome. Now, because the Senate is refusing to finance his bill, Tiberius threatens that, well, the king is willed his kingdom, and therefore all his money, to the people of Rome. Therefore, as I shall take from the people's inheritance and benefit the people. Again, seemingly undermining the Senate's financial powers. The Senate is taken aback by this, but because of the kind of chicanery of wording that Tiberius uses, he gets away with it and is able to seize the money he needs in order to implement this land reform. And that leads into the Lex Agraria, the actual 133 law that actually implements the seizing and redistribution of this land. Most of this land had been, of course, previously owned by members of the senatorial class, and he was going to give it to both urban and rural poor, mainly people who were veterans of these former conflicts. So people who were very much deserving. He uses the money that was bequeathed to the people of Rome by Attalus III of Pergamum to purchase any of the lands. In his law, he realizes that just seizing the lands is not going to work, because a lot of these senators have said, it's like, well, I built buildings, I did improvements, I have orchards and trees and all this kind of stuff. So he's like, he also needs money to basically pay them off for all the things, all the improvements they had done to the land. As well as providing the resources to these different plebeians to actually start farming it once they get a hold of it. And trying to determine, it's like, what's the best way to divide all this up so that it's like you're not advantaging one person over another by having better land than another person. So this then leads into the actual both voting and implementation of this agrarian reform. The thing is that as we will see, the commission is initially being put together, but events will lead to its halt for a significant period of time. Eventually, it will be picked up back again with the new Lex Agraria of 111, and we have actually coins being minted in 113, 112 to basically commemorate the passing of this, and it actually depicts individuals voting on the law. You can see the kind of fencing at the bottom of our coin here that says Nerva, where that's the fencing in of our voters, our different voting blocks, and you can see where they are passing up a vote on a piece of ostraca, a piece of pottery with the vote written on it, up to an individual on the stage, who then walks it over and puts it into the voting bucket, so that the votes can then be tallied to determine whether or not the bill has actually passed. So you can see the process of voting occurring on this coin. And then we have, on the opposite side, we actually have a marker stone, a landmarking pillar, put in place by Tiberius' brother Gaius in a town of Atina in Lucania, down in the south of Italy, in 131. And on the stone it actually has Gaius Sempronius Tiberius Flavius, basically Gaius Sempronius, brother of Tiberius, Appius Claudius Pulcher, Publius Licinius, Publius Filius, basically saying it's like all the people who were involved and where it is and what exactly this stone is marking off. It's marking off roads and whatnot for these different colonies and farms that they're setting up. So we have a physical aspect of the actual work being done, as well as the minting of coins to show the implementation of this law. So as you can see, from 133, the original law, all the way up through 11 when it actually gets fully implemented in any real way. And so a lot of these people are getting these different lands that a lot of them are in Italy, but we are now expanding it out to both Africa and Greece as well as areas where this land is being divided up for the Roman people. Then we have the actual situation that is what halted all of that from occurring, and that's the death of Tiberius Gracchus. So when Tiberius is setting up for his election for the second tribuneship, he makes sure that the election happens during the time of year when all his farming voters are able to actually come into the city and vote. As we talked about the idea before, where people are kind of far stretch of field, and it takes time for people to actually make it into the city of Rome itself to be able to vote. So since the idea is that the program is going to be extended to the urban poor and the like, he starts to gather his supporters to actually be there to elect him as the tribuneship again. But then the debate ensues. It's like, can he actually do this? Are we going to actually allow him to do this? And the thing is that there had been threats on his life kind of brewing for a time before this. And so he had basically hired bodyguards to try to protect him, and he had them kind of distributed throughout the crowd. And he hears that someone is going to try to harm him, and he seems to give a signal, or he makes a hand gesture that is basically insinuating that something is happening. And it basically causes a brawl where people think that Tiberius is going to be attacked, or that Tiberius is going to, as his enemies were trying to perpetuate the idea of overthrow the government to install himself as a king. Hyperbole of the highest order. And so a fight ensues. And so the Pontifex Maximus, who is the one presiding over the election, is so upset about all this brawling, thinking that Tiberius is trying to seize control, and he runs to the Senate and basically convinces them that Tiberius is trying to overthrow the government. The thing is that the Pontifex Maximus at the time is Publius Cornelius Scipio Nasica Curriculum, who is actually Tiberius' first cousin through his mother. His mother is Cornelia, who is the daughter of Scipio Africanus, that Scipio. So a very distinguished family. And this is his cousin from one of her brothers. And so he, as the chief priest, he puts his hood up like he's a priest about to perform a sacrificial role, and he leads a mob of senators and anti-Gracchans out into the forum, and they proceed to murder Tiberius and 300 of his supporters, beating them to death with clubs and rocks. And this is the first instance of political violence in ancient Rome. And this sadly will start a pattern that will continue until the end of the Republic, where people feel like if they have opposition to a political movement, that they feel that they can just murder the political opposition in order to stop them. And this leads to, as you can assume, terrible, terrible situations to come. And this is the first moment that instigates that behavior. Now, after Tiberius' death, another one of his cousins, another family member, basically attempts at first to try to pick up his cause. But when met with this similar opposition, abandons it. And that is Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus Aemilianus, the adopted son of Scipio Africanus. So technically, Tiberius's adopted uncle. But he also marries Tiberius's sister, so he's also his brother-in-law. Interesting kind of family kind of mixing there. Publius, so Aemilianus was born in 185, dies in 129, and so he realizes that the issue is there for land, and the need for land reform. But when he meets the opposition, he then later ends up opposing these reforms of his murdered brother-in-law. Now, the thing is, though, is that as we can see from our statue here, he is part of still the wealthy elite, and we have interesting kind of objects that are associated with him. So this statue is known as the Hellenistic Prince, but we very much believe that it is modeled after Aemilianus, so which is quite unusual for its styling, because usually in the ancient world, if a person is depicted naked, they're usually a divine figure, a god or the like. So the idea that Aemilianus would be depicted in a godlike kind of way, it's like this kind of happens every once in a while kind of thing, but people are like, hey, that looks like you. It's like, oh, it's like I would never see the resemblance. They kind of try to get away with it in those kinds of ways. And so this particular statue is in a Greek style, but it was found on the Quirinal Hill in Rome. It dates to the 2nd century, so the time period of his life. And interestingly enough, is the process by which it was made. It was used it was made in a process called lost wax. And so basically what happens is that you build your kind of model of what you want the statue to look like, and you cover it in wax so that it fills up to create the actual thing. Then you cover it with clay, and then you melt out the wax and then pour in the bronze. And so then the space that the wax took up and the image that it looks like then becomes the space for the bronze to fill up. And this is a very difficult process because you need to keep the bronze hot enough to actually pour throughout the entire statue to have it all poured into one piece. So it takes a lot of technical know-how to actually get this to work. And so once it's done, you break away the clay and you have a complete solid bronze statue made out of a single piece. And you didn't have to shape it or form it like many older statues were done. You can just create it in one go. So quite an advanced kind of bronze making process that we see here. Now, with that, if you need to go to the previous video, it is available to you. If you are ready to head on to the next one, that is available to you as well. If you have any questions about any of the things we just discussed, leave it as a comment below.